guys, this is Tarot with Kittens, Weights, and Tarot, and today I'm doing a video response to Inspiring Aliens, my family members as tarot cards. When I saw her do that, I was like, ah, I gotta do that, and I let her know I was definitely gonna be doing a VR response to this. So Mariana, this is for you. Obviously, I have a huge family. I have more cousins than I can count, and there's like a ton of nieces and nephews that I haven't even met. Like that's mostly due to because I have 3 half-sisters, and one half-sister I've never met. We've connected on Facebook, but we've never actually like met in person. My other half-sister, which is her blood sister, I have met. I do talk to her, and I kind of have been in contact with her son, which is my nephew, and he's graduated from college and everything, which is awesome. And then my third half-sister was being raised by my mother, and I believe this next month in August she'll be 13 years old. So I'm like 23 years older than her, you know, so by quite a bit. And I only really got to know her when she was a baby and a toddler, but I haven't really seen her since. I have a humongous family. I have lots of aunts and uncles. I've got, yeah, there's lots of peeps out there. I decided to kind of break this down into my dad, my mom, my brother, like my blood brother, my dude Brian, our cat Wally, my grandma, my grandpa on my mom's side, and even though they've passed away, like they're still family. Presley, our old cat, he's still family even though he's not here anymore, and my dog Precious. She's not here anymore, but she's still family. I'm also going to be doing my Nana and Gypto. Gypto is my dad's father. That's kind of how I distinguish Grandpa and Gypto. So, and then there's Grandma and there's Nana, so it's like how I distinguish my 2 grandmothers. So that's my dad's side of the family, is my Nana and Gypto. So yeah, and even though they're not here anymore either. And the reason I wanted to pull a card for Gypto especially is because I never got to meet my Filipino grandfather. He passed away in the Philippines, and my dad wasn't speaking to him at the time, so there was like this big lie that he had died a long time ago, when really he died in 1990, and I was like 9 years old at the time, so I, you know, could have had plenty of time to get to know him, but my dad, for whatever reason, just didn't want him to know his grandchildren and things like that. They were having some sort of riff, and unfortunately my grandfather died alone, kind of in the Philippines. That took a really dark turn. Okay, let's get back to, this is actually gonna be really fun. What I want to use is the Sansari Bito Tarot, and here's the backs of the cards and the lovely gilded edging. Okay, so I've already pick the cards. Where actually I didn't like physically like go through the deck and say, like this is my mother and this is my father, but I always like the tarot to choose for me, so I kind of like shuffled until a card popped out, and I was like, okay, this is my dad, this is my mom, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's take a look at them. So for my dad, 2 cards popped out. So I got the Knight of Pentacles, and I got the 7 of Wands. There we go. No glare, no glare. And actually I kind of laughed when I saw this card, because when I was younger, my dad used to walk around in what kind of looked like this like kimono robe thing, and my dad was like always showing off his chest, and he was always doing like the man boob dance thing, and he's like always showing off his abs. My dad is like 77 years old now. He still lifts up his shirt at like family get-togethers. He's like still showing off his abs. He's like, yeah, I'm the man, check out these abs. And so then well, in polite ladylike fashion, I then have to lift up my shirt at like family gatherings, and I'm like, check this out, Dad. So then we have like the ab off. Family's a little strange. So anyways, I was like, dude, that's totally my dad. And then we have the, of course, the 7 of Wands. So my dad has always, I mean, he had a really rough upbringing. He's always been kind of a rough guy. He's kind of like struggled through life. I mean, now he's on easy street, but my dad tends to easily get on the defense. You know, he's as macho as he likes to think of himself. He is a very sensitive man, and so anytime you bring up something that maybe you think he did wrong, or you know he could have done better, it's like, oh, defense, you know. And it's like, you know, he pulls out his boxing gloves, you know, and not that he loves to argue, but it's just like, he's like, whoa, like, where are you coming at me with this, you know. And so He's always been a really hard worker. My dad was a truck driver for Mesa Distributing, which was like, he drove for like Miller Genuine Draft, so he was like the Miller man. It's Miller time, which was inappropriate when I would wear those shirts to school in elementary school. They'd call up my parents and be like, your daughter can't be wearing shirts with beer logos all over them. That's like inappropriate. And I'm like, but yeah, he's always been this really hard worker, but it seems like from what he tells me now, there was so much he wanted to do with his life when he was younger, but because he had a family to raise and everything, he never really got to pursue his passion. So that's why I kind of think he stayed in this kind of night area where he's like, you know, still kind of like that teenager 20-year-old inside, even now that he's like 77, but like he never got to progress forward. But yeah, he's always been a hard worker, tough guy. But he's very sensitive. Okay, I pulled a card for my mother and I laughed when this came out. My mom and I aren't on speaking terms. Actually, I haven't physically spoken to my mom in probably like 10 years. But I would say this is very much her. She is the Queen of Swords. My mom can be very manipulative. My mom is very much in her head. I actually do, like, in all seriousness, not saying like my mom's nuts, but in all seriousness, I do believe that my mom has some undiagnosed issues that I think that if she went and got help and went and maybe saw a therapist or maybe even a counselor and like spoke through her issues, they might be able to diagnose certain things that I think that she might be imbalanced with. But she has all these scenarios that go on in her head. She's very up in her head, and things in her brain happen, and then she thinks they happen in reality, when in reality they've never happened. Certain conversations never happen. And so and when she feels maybe threatened or bad about herself, she tends to, you know, like undermine people and want to like jab at people mentally, because she kind of wants to bring them down to her level, you know, where she feels kind of disoriented and kind of, you know, like a lot of things are going wrong. She wants people to feel kind of the same as her. I don't know if she does that consciously though. Okay, so my baby brother, we have the Ten of Wands. My brother, I'm not even sure what this like burden is on his shoulders, but I know for sure that he's had this burden since I went off to college. By the way, all these cards seem really dark for my family. Okay, my family is jacked up. Hello, internet. I come from a jacked up family. But anyway, I'm sorry. It's not funny. But yeah, ever since I left for college, my brother has felt like the weight of the family or everything like somehow fell on his shoulders, because I wasn't carrying all the burden and the horrible things my mother would say, and other abuse that was going on in the house was usually shouldered by myself until I left for college. And then he still had a couple of years where he was at home till he could leave, but he just did choose to go the college route. But he just felt like, whoa, like all of a sudden, you know, this was the first time he had been, you know, aware of all of this, where before it was kind of kept from him. And then once he got the full brunt of everything when I wasn't there anymore, he was like, whoa. So like his whole perception of like the world and family changed, and he's been just kind of carrying that burden, that heaviness, and that sadness ever since. And it's, I think, been stopping him from progressing in life, unfortunately. Okay, from my dude, Brian, we got the Wheel of Fortune, and that's totally him, because whether his life is on the up and up or he's going through you know, some crap, he's always on the go. It's like, well, I can't stop because the wheel can't stop, you know. So he's like, you know, even when his mother died, he was like, nope, gotta keep working, and he just kind of worked through it, you know. I mean, he's emotionally constipated, but he yeah, he would rather work through emotions by working hard at his job. So like the more let's say bad he might be feeling about a situation, the harder he works. So he constantly has that wheel in motion. No matter where he is in that wheel, it's still in motion. Gotta keep going, gotta keep working. So that is my dude, a Wally Walito, my little puma. And here we have the Page of Cups, and that's definitely him. He's the little page. He is the little manifester of happiness and everything awesome. He definitely has the key to our hearts. But yeah, if you hang out with Wally, like you're stumped on a problem, he comes sits on your lap. Especially, he loves to sit on my lap when I meditate, you know, give him a little pet pet, and then all of a sudden you're like, like, bingo, the answer comes to you. So he is definitely the Page of Cups. I pulled for my grandfather, and this is my mother's father, and I love my grandpa. And here we got Temperance. So he was, I mean, he was a military guy. He was a lieutenant commander in the Navy, retired, and then he created like missile systems and stuff for like the jets and everything. I mean, he was like total, like, just brains galore. But he was constantly trying to make sure that his family stayed balanced. He realized that there was a lot of issues going on, and that, you know, a lot of that stemmed from him being away from home back when they were young. I'm talking about my aunts and uncles and my mother. And so he was constantly trying to make sure that, like, everybody's happy, like, hey, let's go camping and let's do this, which I loved camping with my grandpa. But yeah, I would say he was the great balancer, like, just trying to make sure that everybody was having a good life experience. For my grandmother, she ended up passing away when I was just before my sophomore year of high school. But here I got the King of Pentacles. So for my grandmother, I would say, you know, she wasn't somebody who wanted a lot of things. You know, she had like old t-shirts, like old shorts. I think the last time she bought a brand new dress was for my uncle's like graduation from the Naval Academy. Like that was like it'd been a long time before that, before she had bought something new. But she was just very happy with everything that she had. She was happy with her house. She was happy, you know, where she was. She was happy going on vacation. She was happy with her, you know, same old flip-flops, same old purses, same old holy t-shirts. You know, money and material items were not a thing for her. So I know that the Pentacles is in the material world, but in the material world she was really happy, you know, with what she had. She didn't need a lot of things though. And so here we have the mountains, and that's kind of, well, that's where they lived. They lived in the mountains, and she was happy. Next we have my cat Presley. Like I said, he's not here anymore, but he's still very much part of the family, so he'll hear him around the house. But we have the Ace of Pentacles. So he was always so full of action, and when he saw you sitting around full of inaction, or even when you were like, I would say me, like when I sit around and I just like stew on my thoughts and things like that, he would come by and he'd just be like, okay, well, you're not sitting around, you're not allowed to sit around and do nothing. You can come play with me, we can go do this, you can feed me, you can clean out my litter box, you know. He was always making sure that you weren't sitting around stewing. He always wanted to make sure that you were off doing. And when I was, I'd be singing and practicing for the opera, he'd come over and listen to me. He always made sure that we were, you know, following our passions from a cat's perspective. This is my dog Precious, and here Precious, I got the Seven of Cups. That makes a lot of sense because my dog actually chose our family. So we didn't find her at a shelter, we didn't, you know, get her from a breeder or anything, but she was literally with a pack of dogs, and I think I told this story before, and she just literally jumped in our car and decided that we were now her family. And even though we like took her down to the shelter and we're like, whose dog is this? But eventually, yeah, she was our dog. She chose us. Okay, next card I have is for my Nana. So this is my dad's mother, and I got the Eight of Pentacles and the Page of Wands. So appropriate. She was known for her books. She literally had shelves and shelves and shelves of books, and I have inherited those books. And she was so book learned. She taught herself languages through books, and she was fluent. You know, she was really good. She was really smart. Unfortunately, just due to how her life turned out in decision making, she kind of stayed in this, you know, page arena. She had such fire inside of her. There were so many things she wanted to do and she could have done, but just due to certain circumstances, she never got to progress. The last card I chose was for Gypto. This is my dad's father. AKA Big Jeepy, my dad's little Jeepy. my brother's little jeepy. But here I got the Nine of Cups, and that makes sense from what I've learned about my grandfather, is that he was a very amorous man. He loved everybody. He also loved a lot of women, which is why my Nana kicked him out of the house. But anyway, he was also really smart with money. Like, he came over from the Philippines with like nothing. He came over through the Navy, and he made a couple of restaurants. He had a laundromat. He had a car dealership. He had like 7 or 8 properties. You know, he knew how to make money. He was really proud of his accomplishments, and yeah, he was pretty badass from what I hear. So yeah, all right, inspiring alien, thank you so much for creating this my family members as tarot cards. I had a lot of fun with this, actually, and I encourage other people to jump in on this. So if you haven't seen her video, I'll link her video down below. All right, if you guys want to catch a reading with me, you know that you can do that by hitting the information box down below, or heading on to one of these buttons that pops up here, so you can head off to my Etsy site or my website. And I will catch you spiritual homies later. All right, if you dug this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to click subscribe, and I'll see you later. Peace, love, and chicken grease. Peace out.